Hello, my name is Lauren Delsack, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of the minor aspects, the semisquare and the sesquiquadrate, when we look at aspects in transit. Many times astrologers will just focus on looking at the outer transits from Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto to the natal planets in fourth harmonic aspects, the conjunction, the square, and the opposition. We're really missing half of the picture when we only consider the conjunction, square, and opposition. And so if we focus on eighth harmonic aspects, this includes also the conjunction, the square, and the opposition, but as well the semisquare, 45 degrees, and the sesquiquadrate, which is a 135-degree aspect. I'm going to be using an example of an individual, and I don't even have a time of birth. And nor do we really even need to focus that much on the horoscope because we're going to be looking at the transits. We'll take a look at this person's horoscope for the year 2009, and let's say we were to just look at conjunction, square, and the opposition. Well, we would only see transits from Jupiter. And Jupiter is known for expanding what it touches and bringing opportunities. So we take a look at that and we think this person might have quite a fine year in 2009 if we didn't consider the minor aspects. We would see transiting Jupiter conjunct Venus. We might think that they have an opportunity to fall in love. We see transiting Jupiter conjunct Saturn throughout the year. This might suggest that the person's been given the green light to move forward in terms of ambition. And it also could suggest that the person is feeling very right about what they're doing. But the point is that the astrologer really only has half the picture. And as soon as we take a look at what are the semisquare transits and the sesquiquadrate transits going on in 2009, we get a completely different picture. Starting with Pluto, we see transiting Pluto, semisquare, Neptune. This can suggest many different things. Certainly it has a spiritual and a supernatural dimension to it, but it can also suggest a loss of reality, possibly also something to do with drugs or alcohol or some kind of dysfunctional influence. And then we see that transiting Neptune happens to be semisquare the Sun and Jupiter. This individual was born with natal Jupiter square the Sun. And so there's going to be perhaps a sense of arrogance, perhaps a sense of feeling overly confident about oneself. And so here comes transiting Neptune, semisquare, this natal configuration, and it can suggest several things. It can suggest the sense of an ego wipeout, being confused, perhaps a sense of deception, disillusionment, ego loss. And certainly there are other positive attributes because it can, for an artist, suggest some kind of individuality within being an artist, some kind of spiritual dimensions. But when we see also Neptune in aspect with Jupiter, it always gives the sense of the person perhaps being overly confident and spreading themselves too thin in terms of thinking that everything will just work out perfectly. And when we're looking at a natal horoscope that already has a Jupiter-Sun aspect in it, this Neptune might make this person feel completely overly confident and not necessarily perhaps seeing things clearly for what they are. There's the risk of that. There could also be health concerns with Neptune related to the Sun, and at the same time the Pluto aspect to Neptune. These are various possibilities. And there's also a transit from Uranus, sesquiquadrate to Venus. Without knowing anything about this person's horoscope, we can still look at Venus as the symbolism of perhaps romance, a woman, and Uranus always brings in the sudden, the unexpected, perhaps a sudden meeting, perhaps a sudden breakup. But we're looking at the four minor aspects that are going on in 2009. And when we bring in transiting Jupiter, we know that in 2009, Neptune and Jupiter were conjunct in the skies, and so Jupiter is also semisquare to the Sun at the same time that Neptune is, and also semisquare to Jupiter. And so this can be a highly idealistic combination. This is augmenting perhaps a sense of self-indulgence. It can also suggest some reward. But with that Neptune-Jupiter hitting off the natal Jupiter-Sun aspect, there's always the chance that the person might go off track, and there's a call this year for this person to get back on the right track. So this is certainly not the time for a person to be taking risks, because there's too much of a chance that they could think that everything's going to work out fine, potential overindulgence, and it might be wiser to wait for that Neptune transit to finish up before making any kind of major decisions. It just so happens that in this individual's case, in the October time period, when we see the retrograde hit of transiting Neptune semi-square the Sun, it was at this time that this individual was arrested on drug charges. Ouch. So the point is, if we only look at the conjunction, square, and opposition of the hard aspects in transit, we're not seeing the whole picture. We have to always consider the semisquare and the sesquiquadrate, eighth harmonic, in order to see the whole picture.